Yep, one of my worst videos I've ever made is my most viewed video. YouTube just doesn't make sense sometimes. Hi guys, we finally got around to updating that video, thank God, because it's awful. Now that the 8th and final season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine has concluded, it is time to look through all 8 seasons and rank them starting from the worst to the best. If I did a ranking of all my videos, my most viewed video would probably be my worst or second worst, it's that bad. But anyways, let's get right into it. Coming in at 8th and last place is unfortunately the final season, Season 8. In the time between Season 7 and Season 8, a lot has gone on in the headlines with cops, and they faced a lot of controversy. And a show which is a comedy set in a precinct, Brooklyn Nine-Nine felt like it needed to address it, which I can respect. It attempts to face it head on, and in doing so doesn't really get its message across. Not to say that it adds more controversy, but it just fails to do much about it. Its heart is set in the right place, however the execution feels way too on the nose. Unlike the show, as it's too political for its tone, and in all honesty is quite uncomfortable to watch, with these episodes being easily some of the worst in the entire series. On a more light-hearted sense, when it sticks to what it is good at, it delivers the fun and creativity that you've always expected from each season. Maybe boosted because, you know, this is the final ride with these lovable characters. There are no real standout episodes, they're all mostly those bad episodes or mediocre until you meet the 2-part finale, which I watched about an hour ago, which culminate everything from this whole show, bringing back old characters, old jokes, and ending on a very emotional note, which stuck the landing. So I did stick the landing like Rick and Morty, which is my last video, but the stuff that came before it was some of the worst we had seen in this show, just like Rick and Morty. Coming in at 7th place is Season 7. The quality of this season is a lot better than Season 8, hence why it's so low. It isn't one of the best. Whilst including a lot of its fun moments this season, thanks to the great character chemistry, this is where the show starts to feel like it's running on fumes, as a lot of episodes feel repetitive of stuff that we've seen already in this show. And even as a casual watcher or someone who doesn't like to critique things, they will even notice that, feeling like they've seen it before, but a much better version of it. When watching, I certainly felt that, and something felt off. Another off thing about this season is the character Debbie, who was introduced in first or second episode as like a comedic relief character on the side, who I thought, okay, she's not that funny, but it's one episode, it's fine. After a couple of episodes in between, she appears again as if she was meant to join the squad, which I did not like at all, because, you know, this team has been together from the start. Why are you trying to add someone else? But then they didn't add her, and instead added a ridiculous plot line, which ended straight away. So the use of that character was very odd to me, especially since I didn't like the character to begin with. That portion of the season stuck out like a sore thumb. But besides that, there are still a lot of fun moments, as I mentioned. You can sense the decrease in quality as there is a lot of mediocre episodes compared to usual. However, there's still enough fun to satisfy a Brooklyn Nine-Nine fan. Coming in at 6th place is Season 6. Following a change of studio, the Brooklyn Nine-Nine squad feel like they have not been split up at all. They continue with that great chemistry from the seasons before. However, a big noticeable change was the introduction of censored swearing. You know, our characters never swore before, so that itself felt odd to add in this season, but adding it just to censor it also just feels very odd. And maybe it was funny at first as it was unfamiliar, but once, you know, you've been used to it for about 2 episodes, it just felt forced, unnecessary, and not that funny. This is where you really start to notice quite a few inconsistencies compared to the season before, but that is understandable as it is a complete change of studio. You know, for the most part it feels like a normal continuation, but there are a few nitpicks which do stick out. But overall, it's still quite a satisfying season, and one which I didn't expect to do so well considering that change of studio. Coming in at 5th place is Season 4. Season 4 takes us to uncharted territory with Captain Holt and Jake in hiding, making for our usual hilarious moments, but this time in a new environment, and using that environment to make clever new jokes. Besides that beginning section where it is a new environment, the middle portion, it still has some fantastic episodes, some of the best in the entire show. But once we get towards the end, we are also left with a cliffhanger which would take things into more uncharted territory, which we'll talk about in a second. But this is one of the more unique seasons for me. Yes, it isn't the top, but just that beginning was something new and fresh which I hadn't really experienced from this show before. It did well to not make things feel tedious and boring and staying with the same formula, which was working, so they could have easily done, but just the change of scenery I really liked. Maybe it was resolved too quickly, but nonetheless still enjoyable. But as I mentioned, besides that, it also delivered some fantastic episodes, so there's really not much you can't like about season 4. Coming in at 4th place is season 5. Just like I talked about with season 4, this season takes us into more uncharted territory while having the beginning section of the season devoted to Jake in prison. It made for a really interesting viewing as to seeing what it would be like with him in there and what sort of stories they could pursue. And I did really enjoy the time spent in there. And by doing that, it brings in some funny new characters as well as developing character relationships in certain ways which we hadn't before, and not to mention just character development in itself. As this is the final season with Fox, there is an element of farewells amongst it. Despite the characters maintaining excellent chemistry and there's a lot of avenues yet to explore in this show, a satisfying ending to the show. However, they did carry on, which still made perfect sense, but overall a really solid season. It really hurts me to have some of these seasons so low because they are really good, but so there are seasons higher up. Coming in at 3rd place is season 3. It may not maintain the high consistency of quality in all of its episodes. However, season 3 is a fantastic season of this show and just any show in general. It manages to maintain its hilarious gags and jokes, as well as character relationships, including an unfamiliar romantic element added as well. Just as usual by this show's standards, you could watch an hour-long compilation of all the moments from this season and not get bored, hoping that that was just a part 1 of that video and then there would be a second part to watch. So it's really hard to put such a great season in 3rd place, but that means there are better seasons yet to come. Coming in at 2nd place is season 1. This introductory season to Brooklyn Nine-Nine was such a pleasant surprise on a personal level as well as a critical level. Led by the charismatic Andy Samberg, combining with Andre Broger's Raymond Holt, these two seem too different to put together and make something special, but nonetheless their opposites attract and make for some hilarious moments and a hilarious relationship which continues for many years to come. From the start, the show knows exactly what it is and captures its lovable tone straight away. It is a hilarious ride from start to finish and sets up some gags which would yet to be continued into later seasons, but just on a personal level, I love this show so much. I remember being at sleepover with a group of my friends. Someone said, "Oh, this show is quite funny. I've seen a couple of episodes," and we watched the first season all in that night, and it was just a moment I won't forget because this season was fantastic. It's not the best of this series, so let's go talk about number 1. And if you're good with maths, I'm not. By process of elimination, coming in at 1st place is season 2. As mentioned about those gags in its first season, they're continued onwards in this season to make them iconic for the show, whether that's the Halloween heist or certain inside jokes with the characters who are more lovable this season as you develop them more thanks to the fantastic chemistry amongst all of them. This season, every character gets their moment in the spotlight, whether that's the main character Jake Peralta or even Hitchcock and Scully on the side. They all thrive in it and look like they're having a blast. Each actor never once overstaying their welcome, always popping in at the perfect time for a hilarious moment. The 2nd season had a hard task of trying to top the 1st season, but it manages to do so and sets up for more fantastic seasons which did come, hence why it is in my number 1 spot. Thank you so much for watching today's video. That was my ranking of all 8 seasons of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. The video won't be made again as it is finished for good now. Let me know what your ranking would be. I'd hope to get this to more views than my other Brooklyn Nine-Nine video because it's so much better this time around. But anyways, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video.